Guys, I want to sort of correct a misnomer that comes up time and time again in Football Manager. It's been around for years. While it is true that there are certain tactics that you can create that just don't work, right? Go check out the Fumble Zone, right? They had a special on that a little while ago. While there are some tactics that won't work, it's not really about the tactic. It's about the tactic combined with the personnel and combined with like the cohesion and the morale. That's the thing that will make it work. I'll try to do my best here to show you what I'm talking about. So when we go into the game, this is what we look like. We're still losing money, even though I just won that FA Cup match that we weren't anticipating and have been trying to get us to look better on paper. But we need to have like fans and an actual stadium that can actually see people. Anyway, small details. We look at the tactic here. This is the tactic I put together. This is loosely based, as I've said before, on a tactic I remember using in FM22, which comes, I believe, originally from a Knapp tactic. This is not exactly the same as it was then, but is very similar. That's why you have 3 Shadow Strikers, 2 Segundo Volantes. I don't have any special instructions for anybody. You can see there. We have these 2 wingbacks here, both in support, so it's kind of like a mirror image of itself. And then the 3 ball-playing defenders with the sweeper keeper on support, right? Our squad, in terms of like actual ability, is pretty low. I mean, we're going to see that here with this next match because we have like the second team out there. These guys are kind of sketchy. They're not really that good. But we've had some success here in the early season. We're having success because of a number of things. First of all, the tactic is a tactic that can win, right? What I mean by a tactic that can win is there is some sort of like way in the meta of the tactic to score a goal, right? This isn't one of those tactics that's designed just to have possession. I did that before. You can go back on the channel and see it. About a year ago, I had a save in which I used, I think it was Ingolstadt, and we tried this tactic that I got from another place online, and it was designed mostly to keep possession. We kept possession, but we didn't have any offensive attack, right? This is different. It's got the attacking mentality. We're trying to move the ball in on either side and try to get it to one of these guys to set something up going forward and to shoot a goal, right? I've talked about this before. The cool thing about this tactic, even at this lower league level, is that the defenders don't know what to do because there are no strikers. Instead, you have these 3 shadow strikers who enter the box a little bit after they expected to. In theory, they do. Our players don't quite know how to play the position they're playing, so it's not quite as good as it should be. And then there's the 2 Segundo Volantes who come up afterwards. So if the tactic works well, you'll see us with the ball like somewhere up here, and we'll wait maybe a second or two, get the defense completely off balance, and find a guy who's moving up from the back that they're not expecting, right? That's kind of how this thing works. It works in theory, right? You can do this with other tactics, right? We all know about like the 4-4-2. We know about different setups you can create that you can sort of make work in Football Manager. There are some things that help this tactic work, though, including the fact that we have a much higher defensive line and a high press. It does mean that we sometimes can be beaten in the back, but we haven't been beaten in the back that much. It's pretty interesting. Instead, we try to keep the ball up here where we have a better chance of scoring. And we have a couple other things like that, right? We're doing a gegenpress, we're countering, we're doing counter press. When we get the ball, we attack right away. We don't sit there and wait. If they have the ball, we try to go get it instead of trying to go back into position and so on and so forth. Anyway, as long as you have stuff like that and you have something that is a legitimate formation, i.e. you don't have 10 players up here or 10 players down here, in Football Manager, more or less, it's going to work. But there's more to it than just that. I've talked about this before. You need to make sure you have players who are consistent. You need to make sure and hope that you have players who don't fall apart in big matches. Because we have no reputation. Every match is a big match. If the player doesn't like playing in big matches, I have no use for him because every match for us is a big match. We're playing against teams with a lot more reputation than we have, right? And the other thing you have to make sure is that your dynamics are good, that you have good morale. The morale started off poor for this team. It's up to average. That means that we're starting to inch forward a little bit, which is good. Atmosphere is very good. People are happy on the club. There's good support for me as manager. We did lose a few matches. This time I didn't go nuts. I didn't go yell at players. I didn't go out and punch the pillow or something like that. I left it. I kept it inside. I did a little bit of serenity now, and as a result, the morale on the team actually is pretty good. you'll look at the happiness, and players for the most part are happy. They don't like training, but I mean, that's what happens when you're on this type of team. For some reason, Poodle doesn't like me because he thinks there's not enough depth in attacking midfield. Poodle, my friend, my brother in Christ, have you not noticed that all we have are attacking midfielders? Anyway, whatever, it doesn't matter. Social groups doesn't matter that much for us either, but what does matter is the hierarchy. You can click on this. You're looking for support, and we have a lot of managerial support. That is good. That means that we have good morale and we have a good atmosphere on the club. We can use that to, over time, allow this cohesion to build. When the cohesion builds, the morale is good and people are happy. What happens is when you throw out a tactic like this, your guys are going to play like they're the best players in the world. They'll start playing better than they really are. That's the way the Football Manager works. That's why I say it's not just a game about tactics. It's a game about tactics and morale. You have to actually get in and actually play the game. Once you spend the time and put in the effort and the energy required to play the game, you will notice that you can have players that really aren't good enough for this level, but they start playing really well because they like being there and they feel happy, and they will play above what their actual ability to play is. And that's when you start seeing crazy things happen. That's when you start seeing teams that should be in last place beating teams that are better than them. That's when you see the shock victories and stuff like that that happens. It does and can happen in Football Manager, but to make sure that your odds of having this happen are high, you have to play the game according to the rules that the game sets up. And one of those big rules is this stuff about the morale and the stuff about the cohesion and all that other stuff. Now, I'll be honest with you, and I've had videos about this in the past. I hate the morale system of Football Manager. I just hate it because most of the time a player is upset and you have no chance to do anything to make them feel better, right? It totally sucks. It's really bad if you're trying to play with real players who are stars and they get upset for some stupid reason and you can't do anything about it. You just want to rip your hair out, right? But sometimes the morale system, when you understand it and you can take advantage of it, sometimes it will work in your favor. It will make it so that you might have a tactic that's not a world beater. That's a tactic you came up with yourself. You didn't just go into the forums and download a Knap tactic. You actually made it yourself, and yet you can still win with it because you've got good morale, you've got good managerial support, and you're playing the game the right way. That's the key to it. You have to play the game the right way. You have to rely on the cohesion, on the morale. In other words, Football Manager is not just a tactics game. It's got tactics, but it's also about making the guys happy. It's about answering the stupid questions that they ask. It's about talking with the press, even though it sucks, right? It's about telling players they trained well. It's about, a guy did poorly in the match, but instead of screaming at him, you decide not to, right? So he still feels good and has confidence, right? That's the sort of game that it is. Sometimes we do have the temptation to take it out on the players. My advice, however, is to take it out on something else in your life, like scream at people on YouTube, because if you can do that instead of yelling at your player in-game, maybe you'll keep your morale up, and maybe you'll live to see another day and actually win a game. So anyway, there you go. There's my rant. I'll talk with you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.